Hello, everyone, and welcome back to season 2 of our WMRHSD Central College Admissions Interview Series. My name is Shanna Donnelly. I am one of the counselors here at Central, and I'm here with Mr. Jeff Gallant from Boston College, who is going to tell us about all of the great things BC has to offer today. So welcome, Mr. Gallant. Thank you so much for spending time with us. If you would love to just get started with talking a little bit about BC, that would be perfect.
Sounds great. Thanks, Shanna. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for the opportunity. Hope all the students out there are doing well. BC is a medium-sized university, so we have about 9,500 undergrads and about 4,500 graduate students. And our undergrads are divided among 4 undergraduate colleges. So when students apply, they choose a major or go undecided, but they have to apply to one of these 4 schools. So the first one is the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. That's the largest of our 4 schools. There are over 60% of our student body is in that school. It has over 30 or more than 30 humanities and science majors. And then we have 3 professional schools, the Carroll School of Management, where students study business. About 20 to 25% of our students are in that school. And then we have the Lynch School of Education and Human Development. That's about 9% of our students, or around 10%. And then the Cannell School of Nursing, which is 3%. The students that pick us like the balance that we offer. A couple characteristics about the university promote a sense of balance. One's our location. You have good access to the city of Boston, but our campus is actually in a neighborhood. So you're surrounded on 3 sides by neighborhood homes and a 4th side by a reservoir, a body of water, meaning that we can provide students with that traditional residential campus experience with good access to the city. And then the other thing to know is that we have a religious affiliation. We're Catholic. More specifically, we're founded by the Jesuits. So the Jesuits have founded 27 colleges and universities in the United States. And there are quite a few of them in the Northeast. So places like Fordham, Georgetown, Fairfield, Holy Cross in Worcester, Massachusetts, all the Loyola schools, including Loyola, Maryland, fall into this category or share this heritage. So certainly could talk more about that, but just know that's our history as a Catholic, religiously affiliated institution.
Perfect. I think a lot of, at least my students on my caseload and families know that I lived in Boston for a while. I attended BU for graduate school, but I lived right on Commonwealth Ave. So I was smack dab in the middle. And I think such a tremendous aspect of Boston College is just what you said. It's the fact that you have access to a city at your fingertips, but you're on that contained campus and you really do get the campus feel. And it's not huge and overwhelming, and neither is Boston in general. But it is such a good size for a school, and you still get that raw feel if that's what you're looking for with your sports and athletics and all of that good stuff. I think it's so unique to have that so close to a major, metropolitan area, which is very, very cool. What's one of your favorite things about Boston College that you can share with our students?
Yeah, sure. And absolutely. And to your point, I just think from your school in your area, New Jersey, Boston's a good fit, right? If your students have grown up with New York City being the city they know best,
yes.
They find Boston really manageable compared to New York City. And then, it's convenient to get back and forth from home. So you can go home, you can go to a school that's not far. It's not going to be a big challenge when you want to get home for break or, maybe occasionally during the school year. But you're going to experience something totally different. And you're going to meet people from all over the country. So you had that experience, and that's true. And I think that's attractive for students from your area. So I guess that's kind of one thing I like, that it's in just such a great college area. No matter if we only enroll one student, from Westmore Central, there's no way that they're going to be alone in Boston, and they'll have people at BU they know from high school or the area or Northeastern, and it gives the students a reason to visit those campuses, and they meet all their new college friends. And I think that's why many students at upperclassmen, juniors and seniors at BC or BU or Northeastern or Harvard or Tufts or one of the other great schools, by the time they're a junior or senior in college, they have friends at the other area institutions that they originally met by visiting old friends from high school as freshmen. And I think that's a luxury that Boston provides college students that, I don't think other cities can rival. But I think specifically about BC, I think it's nice that people are proud of the place. people are excited, students are excited to be here. Like the positivity is palpable. And I hope that's a goal for all students. And I hope they achieve that goal and that they're happy where they're at. And they're proud to say they go to the school, and then they're proud graduates for the rest of their lives. And, we're fortunate that while we're not a perfect place, I think the vast majority of students are very happy with their experience here and are looking to give back as working adults. And so, we have a really strong alumni network. College costs a lot. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But I think our outcomes are really strong. And I think in the end, most students have a very positive undergraduate experience here and then feel like it was a good investment, for as they continue their lives, no matter if they're just a couple years out or a couple decades out.
Yeah, absolutely. I always tell kids when they're going on their visits, you can't underestimate the vibe, right? When you walk on a campus and to take note of the students on campus, like how do they look, or do they seem happy, or are they enjoying themselves there? And Boston College has a campus where kids are genuinely like in love with it. You always see BC apparel, like they're happy and they're proud to rep their college, and we love that so much. So that's perfect.
And I think that's great advice. I think you can, when you're visiting, pick up subtle cues about how the students feel about a place. And like if there's one-offs, that could just be that particular student. But if you start to feel a trend and a vibe, like to your example, like if I think people around here wear BC gear to class and like their daily lives. Like if you go to a school and people have college sweatshirts on, but it's not the name of the institution you're visiting, like that might be a problem. That might be a sign.
That's a red flag, as the kids like to say these days. Yeah. So good. So good. Tell us a little bit more about campus culture, I guess. So we know that the kids love it and students are proud to rep BC, but a little bit more like sports. Is Greek life a thing? What are students doing on campus?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so this is a characteristic of most Jesuit Catholic institutions. I'm not sure all, but most, and that we don't have Greek life. We don't have fraternities and sororities. So I think if you're looking at a school like BC, you just want to make sure that we have good outlets for you outside the classroom to continue things that you enjoyed doing in high school as far as extracurricular activities, because extracurricular club involvement drives social life at BC. It's the way people make friends over the course of 4 years. It's everything. So you want to make sure that we possess those outlets if you feel like you're going to apply to us. That that's essential into making us a good fit for you. But we certainly have a ton, because we don't have Greek life and we rely on the student clubs and organization. There's a ton offered, and I do think we tend to attract students who enjoyed being involved in their high school communities. They tend to be joiners. And they enjoy not only participating in things themselves, but maybe going and supporting their friends, whether it's a musical performance, a dance show, athletic contest. They like to see school spirit manifested in a crowded student section, whether it's at an arts performance or an athletic performance, for example.
I like that. I think it's a very similar vibe to what we have at Westmore Central too. We have a lot of doers. We have a lot of kids that love to get involved. School spirit's big here. Obviously, everybody wears Wolfpack stuff on Friday, so it is a good transition, I think, for a lot of our students.
That's great.
What are some of the fun traditions at Boston College? Anything that stands out to you?
Sure. I mean, this time of year, football is a big deal, and even though our teams had varying levels of success in recent years, it's still a big thing. It's really it takes over campus on Saturdays in the fall, when the football team's at home. People from the outside community will come to the games with their families. Alumni come back. So I think even if you don't really care for sports, even a lot of those students will go to the games just because of the atmosphere. So I think football games and all the pomp and circumstance that goes with that is a pretty good tradition in the fall. And I think athletics, it continues. Students like to support and attend the athletic contests. Men's, women's basketball, men's and women's ice hockey are great. And the nice thing about ice hockey is that for our athletic conference, for most sports, we're in the ACC, and we play schools that aren't really close to BC. I think Syracuse is probably the closest ACC rival, and that's a 6-hour drive. With hockey, the other Boston area schools, as well as the public institutions throughout New England, are good at it. So those fans from Harvard and Northeastern and BU, and then some of the state institutions around, they'll come to our games, and it's easy for our students to travel to away games. So that's a nice atmosphere in the winter that hockey provides that dynamic. And then we've had great success in women's lacrosse. They've been in the national title game a bunch in recent years. And they won the national title a couple of years ago. So those games, as well as baseball and softball. A nice thing is we have a ton of dance groups on campus, more than you might think.
Interesting.
And so their big event of the year is called Showdown. And so all the dance groups perform, and it's just sort of for bragging rights. A winner is selected, and then the winner gets to make a donation to the charity of their choice. But
I like that a lot. It's very cute.
It is. That sells out our basketball and hockey arena. So about 8,000 students attend. And so that's just a great thrill for the performers. So while we, have a lot of athletic opportunities here, there is a great arts culture at BC too. There's an arts fest that's for about 10 days in the spring that's well known in the New England region. So again, people from outside the BC community come watch our students perform in a variety of different ways. And then just finally, this might not seem like the most exciting tradition in the world, but it is here. The Boston Marathon runs right by our campus in the spring. Everybody has the day off. It's usually mid-April, so the weather is getting a little bit nicer. It's kind of a celebration of spring. They do a concert. They bring performance. So it's a really fun day, and they cheer on the runners.
I can attest to that. That was one of my favorite pieces about living in Boston is Patriots Day and getting off for the marathon. So much fun. So much fun.
You appreciate it. Yeah. So maybe you can tell students, you watch people run by. How fun is that? But it really is.
No, it's so much more than the running. Yeah, my goodness. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So we talked a little bit about the academics in the 4 schools within Boston College. Right. What would you say are the top majors the kids are applying into? So, for example, if I have a student who says that they want to major in blank, they should definitely consider going or taking a look at Boston College.
Sure. I think it depends on the school, right? So Morrissey is the largest. I think within Morrissey, the most popular majors are biology, economics, political science, communications, psychology, neuroscience, computer science. But there are over 30, so you have a lot to choose from. If you're looking at the Carroll School of Management, it's finance, but there are also many concentrations offered. While a good amount of students in the Lynch School are preparing to be educators, K through 12 or in the higher ed realm, the applied psych human development major has actually become the most popular major in that school. And it is, among the most popular at the university in total. And then nursing, if you apply to the Cannell School of Nursing, you have one choice, nursing. So
absolutely. So, if I were to indicate on my application then that this applied psychology or whatever is what I am planning to go into, am I only applying into that? Am I applying into like Boston College and being, I guess measured against everybody applying to the school, or is it just within that major?
Sure. So you do have to apply to a specific school and you will be admitted into that school. You can have majors and minors across schools, but our advice is, if you think that just even a little bit, you might want to do business, education, or nursing. Our advice is to apply to that school now out of high school, and you can choose a major or you can go undecided, and that'll have no bearing on your admissions chances, but you're undecided or with a major applying to one of the 4 schools. The reason we say maybe apply to the professional school is because Morrissey is so much larger. Students can flow more easily in that direction, meaning if you're in Carroll, Lynch, or Cannell, we can guarantee that you can have a second major in arts and sciences, no problem. If you're in arts and sciences, you can do business, education, or nursing, but there may be limitations and you may only be able to minor in it. But from an admissions standpoint, all 4 schools have pretty much the same acceptance rate. So you don't gain a significant advantage or have a disadvantage applying to one over the other. I think it's just the one that you most want to enter at the time of your application.
Okay, that makes total sense. So then if we have students who are like considering nursing, but maybe also something more arts and sciencey, we're telling them to apply into nursing. That makes more sense for them.
Yeah, and then I think the thing that comes up the most often is that student who feels like they're more of a humanities oriented student, and they like a lot of the majors that are in Morrissey, but they don't want to give up um, that possibility of business. I think for that student, they can certainly apply to Morrissey and maybe major in economics, and then they could have a minor in finance or in accounting. Um, but I think if a student really wants to take as much business coursework as possible, then they should apply to Carroll.
Okay, perfect. Very good. Money. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the financial piece. It is an expensive endeavor, that is for sure. And here in our offices, we do talk to families a lot about sticker price versus the actual price that families are paying. What can you tell me about tuition and typical financial aid packages and how that process works?
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, we are very expensive, but we are one of the schools in the country that I feel is most generous with financial aid in terms of need-based aid. So for students and families, I'm sure you're helping them navigate this, right? There's two type of aid approaches used by colleges. It's either merit aid or need-based aid. So there are 21 schools in the country that guarantee the full demonstrated need of every applicant, and so we're one of those schools. We'll meet that need.
Awesome.
But the way we figure that out is you have to complete the FAFSA form, which determines your eligibility for grants and loan programs that are from the government. Mm-hmm. And then there are many private schools like Boston College that have financial aid from Boston College institutional sources. And so there's another form required for schools like mine, and that's the CSS profile. And so based on, and then tax information from the family. And so we meet 100% of the need based on that information. The issue is that sometimes a family's definition of what they need doesn't match what the forms can.
Yeah.
And so that's why the net price calculator and doing as much work in advance to maybe prepare for that conversation or to know what's ahead can be really helpful for students and families. So net price calculators on every school's website, and hopefully they utilize that. We do have one merit scholarship program. So merit is the opposite, right? It doesn't look at a family's financial situation. It's just based on grades, strength of the application. We have a scholarship program called the Gabelli Presidential Scholars Program that students can apply for. They can apply for any of our deadlines, but we do ask that they complete their application by November 1st. So even if they're applying as a regular decision applicant, we need the months of November and December to carry out the selection process for this scholarship. So just as long as their app is complete, it doesn't mean they're applying for binding admission, but if it's complete in November, they're automatically considered for our one merit scholarship program. But we don't offer as much merit aid as they might encounter at other schools.
Okay, very good. What does the selection process look like?
Sure. So we probably seriously consider about 200 students, and then we invite about 70 of them to campus as finalists to interview and to learn more about the program that accompanies the scholarship. And that occurs during the fall and winter. So if a regular decision student is selected as a finalist, we'll send them an acceptance letter with that notification early. And then we offer it to maybe about 30 to 40 students with the hope of yielding half of them. So these are some of the top students in the country that probably would not be choosing BC, but with this merit scholarship, maybe they will. And so it is students that have done really well academically. They can apply test optional, but if they have testing, probably very strong scores, and then they're doing something interesting outside the classroom.
Awesome, very good. So what type of student are you typically accepting, like in terms of test scores, GPA, rank?
Yep. I think, so our acceptance rate for early decision is about 30%, and for a regular decision, it's about 15%. So these are students that are able to make it through that kind of competitive admission process. So they're students that, I think, when they're applying, hopefully they look at their transcript and they feel like it's a good reflection of their ability and the work that they've put in throughout high school. If possible, we ask them to take the 5 core subjects. So math, English, natural science, social science / history, foreign language for 4 years. If they double up in areas of strength, just working with you to make sure that they highlight that in their application, and we understand like the thought that went into that decision. Obviously, it's not necessarily something that's going to hurt their application, but it's just good to get the context of why they made sort of academic choices along the way. Testing, we remain test optional for students. I do think numbers are starting to shift back towards how testing sort of flowed pre-pandemic. So last year, about 2/3 of the students that we admitted had a test score. A third did not. So a third, I think, is still significant, but
Yeah.
it's not like it was maybe 2 years ago where that was a pretty even 50-50 split. 50% of the students we admitted had a test score, 50% did not. But I think you can only take advantage of the resources available to you at your school. So we just hope that students challenge themselves to the best of their ability. And if they've done that, I think that will help their candidacy in our admission process.
Perfect. Thank you. Two things you mentioned there that are of note to me. So your acceptance rate for ED, so that early decision, 30% versus 15% for regular decision. So our students that really, really love Boston College, it may behoove them to take advantage of that binding agreement if everything else makes sense, right? If the financial piece makes sense too.
Absolutely.
So that's a little tidbit. And also, I think you mentioned before with that merit scholarship and that money piece that the test scores don't necessarily make a difference in that scholarship consideration.
We've had students selected for the scholarship since the pandemic with testing and without testing.
Okay. So it doesn't, knock you out if you don't have the testing.
No. And thank you for your point about early decision. So we have 2 rounds of early decision. Early decision 1 is November 1st, and the notification is early December. And then whenever our regular decision deadline is, January 1st or the first Monday in January, that's also the deadline for early decision 2. I think it's just tough. I think in the last decade or so, maybe even longer, the college list has just kind of changed, right? It may not necessarily just, and I don't need to tell you this, I'm sure you're helping all your students with this all the time, but it used to be just try to find the right number of schools from the right mix of selectivity. And now maybe the additional step is you want to just try to maybe think about when you want to apply. And thank you for saying, the financial aid piece is a big component of feeling confident about applying early decision. Right. But if a family does feel good about that and it's clearly the student's first choice, that early decision option might be a good one for them.
Awesome. Very good. Okay, so test optional. Many of our students are definitely still taking advantage of this. What does that look like on your end? So when you're reviewing an application, it's just not considered, or everything else just becomes more important if the test scores aren't there, like a transcript is more important.
Yep.
What are you looking at?
Yeah, thank you. I think what we're starting to see a little bit, going back to what I said a minute ago, is those first couple of classes, graduating classes during the pandemic and coming out of the pandemic, they didn't have the chance to super score as easily as maybe the students do now, in that test dates were getting canceled all the time. Maybe a student family didn't feel safe in a testing environment. So students couldn't put their best foot forward to achieve their desired super score. And, that's the high, both the SAT and the ACT. We look at the highest combination of scores across all tests. Now, I don't think those challenges of the past are with us. So a student's decision not to submit testing is less about all those circumstances and more about just their choice to do so. And I think that is a reason why that we're starting to see a higher percentage of students submit testing. But I think if you feel like your candidacy will be stronger without your test scores, you feel like you're just far more confident in the strength of your transcript than your testing, then again, that pathway still exists. And I think that the past couple of years, students have had options that they may not have had pre-pandemic because their testing would have held them back. And I think that's still, still there. But to your point, I think if you don't submit testing, you're not giving us a piece of information that other students are. So you just want to make sure that, you work as hard as possible to make your application as complete and as authentic as you can make it.
Perfect. Very good. You also hit on something that I wanted to touch on as well before, in that making sure students are kind of taking advantage of what their high school has to offer. So we are an IB World School, so we offer the IB diploma and we offer the IB career program as well. How does IB affect candidacy for a student going through the admissions process?
Yeah, a student that feels like they can tackle that challenge and they pursue the IB, it only helps their candidacy. I think AP in some ways has become our national curriculum. You see AP quite a bit, but for around the world, IB has been around, for decades and is really highly regarded. So the fact that your students have the option of pursuing that at your school, I think is great, and I think they work very hard, and I hope it translates. It's valued. IB is valued by college admissions, and I hope it translates to college options that they're excited about. But I think at the very least, IB prepares students really well for the rigor of college level work. So, maybe they won't feel as stressed with the workload their first semester than some other peers that didn't have the opportunity to take IB. And so I think there's real value there as well, that that first semester might not be as rough a transition for IB students as it is for other students.
Yes, we hear that time and time again when alumni come back and share their college first semester experiences. We do hear that. Let's say we have a student who does not opt in to either of our IB programs.
Sure.
So now you've received our school profile and West Mars Central offers IB and the student doesn't take advantage of it. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, again, that student could still be admitted. I think, for us, it's a balance between rigor and grades, right? Just because you take the most rigorous program available to you at your high school, but it significantly impacts your grades because you're extending yourself beyond, what you can manage. Those aren't the ingredient. That isn't the formula for a successful applicant in the college admissions process necessarily. It goes back to we hope that you challenge yourself to the best of your ability. You were thoughtful with your school counselor and other members of the community when choosing your schedule throughout high school, so it was appropriate for you and allowed you to really thrive in the classroom. So I think as long as a student really challenges themselves to the best of their ability and does well from a grade standpoint, then I think that should give them confidence in the college search process. It doesn't guarantee everything's going to work out perfectly, but I think it should give them some peace of mind and confidence that they're putting their best foot forward.
Perfect. Very good. Well said. All right, so we've talked academics, we've talked the numbers, the test scores, and all of that. How about everything else? How about activities and the essay? How important are those factors when it comes to reviewing a student's application?
Yep. I think, it is an academic competition first and foremost, but you have a good amount of students each year who apply that you feel can really do the work and be very successful academically at our school. And then you have to look the next step, the subjective element. So the subjective elements don't sort of trump the academic piece, but they are important in our review process. And it goes back to something we talked about at the beginning, right? Like every school has its own traditions and its own culture. And so, we have a lot of resources, but we don't have resources for everybody to make everybody perfectly happy. And so I think it's important for students in their application in the subjective areas, telling us, about their activities, what they care about, their essay, which I think we're going to talk about, just communicating who they are and what they care about, because then when we go to the review process, it allows us to be in better position to pick the most appropriate fits for what we offer. And then when it goes back to the student, then I think they should feel really confident that they made a good decision by applying early decision to that school. They should immediately feel like all right, this is going to be a good fit, or they're left with the most appropriate list of schools to choose from when trying to make a decision at regular decision. They'll have the best list of schools to choose from. So the subjective piece is really important. I think students should just be really authentic and spend some time on the activities they've been most committed to. I don't think it has to be a laundry list. I don't think you necessarily have to fill in all 10 spaces on the Common App, but I think you should highlight the things you've been most committed to. And I think if that culminates in some leadership or additional responsibility as a junior or a senior, that's terrific to see as well.
Okay, perfect. So the writing piece.
Yeah.
Let's talk the essay, supplements, whatever it may be. How important is that to Boston College?
I think it's just such a unique part of all the credentials. I think there are two parts of the whole college application process when students are submitting that can humanize a student applicant and make them feel like a real person rather than just a bunch of screens. And that's, when they let teachers and counselors get to know them a little bit. So the teacher or counselor, when writing their recommendation letter, maybe shares anecdotes about the student. That's really nice. You like to read stories about people. And then obviously their essay, because we can hear your voice. And I know students have a lot of resources at their disposal. People can help them. Now we have technology with ChatGPT. I think it's just important. Like, I think ChatGPT can help you write like a college sample. It could be pretty basic. It could just be pretty generic, and it might not fit with the other parts of the application. And it's just great when an essay sort of fits with everything else we're learning about you. And it's just really authentic, and we can really hear your voice. That's a powerful part of the review process when we read something that clearly the students spent a lot of time on. They were thoughtful about it. And to your point about supplements, right? Like, we're on the Common Application. I think that's 650 words. The Common App is accepted by over 1,000 colleges and universities now. So chances are most of your students are going to fill out the Common App essay.
Right.
And then just keep in mind that almost every school now will have an additional step or two or a couple that you have to complete that's school specific. And for BC, it's another essay question. You have maybe 4 or 5 questions to choose from. You have to write a 400-word response. But some schools, it might be multiple short essays or short answer. And I think sometimes students are caught off guard with the requirements of the supplement for specific schools. So it would be good to just get a sense of the schools you're looking at. What am I going to have to do beyond the Common Application so I can just plan my time responsibly over the summer and into the early fall.
Exactly. And I think you hit the nail on the head with authenticity, right? Like, that's what we're trying to explain to the students on, we do have a lot of resources. Sometimes there's too many cooks in the kitchen with an essay.
Absolutely.
So and what we tell our students is like, you really want your voice to shine through in the end. I don't want to hear mom or your essay coach or your English teacher or whoever it may be. It really needs to be your words and your voice and authentically you, because that's how you're going to find the best fit for a school, right? That's the most important piece.
100%. And I mean, when you read the amount of essays that we do, you do get a sense for what a high school senior's voice sounds like.
Right.
And when it doesn't sound that way, it does. We can pick that up sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. So I think you just want to be really careful of not having too many people help you, because I think you could write something that's perfectly written, but like falls a little flat as a college personal statement because it's that authenticity doesn't seem to be there.
I totally hear that. That's great advice. How else can a student really make themselves stand out, I guess, in this whole process? So they've got the academics, they're going to challenge themselves, maybe submit those test scores if they're proud of them and they help the application.
Yeah.
What can make them a real standout?
I just think too, I think trying to allow their counselor to get to know them a little bit. And then also, try to choose wisely with the teachers that are recommending you. I think we get a lot of applications with our recommendations where the recommendation is a little generic. It's very positive, but it's a little generic. And we get plenty of those recommendations, and they don't hurt a student. But they don't help as much as they can. when you can tell like the student invested in that relationship and allowed
Mhm.
this teacher to get to know them a little bit. And they were able to share maybe some examples of being in their, having them in their class or working with them. So,
Okay. I love that you actually read the recommendations.
yeah,
Makes us feel better on this end when we're
exactly. You put a lot of work into it. They are read.
but perfect. And I think that's great advice. Yeah, we talk a lot with our students about who they're picking and making sure it's the right balance of teachers and, highlighting their successes in a classroom. So perfect. And then I think really to wrap up, what's one piece of advice you would give to students who are going through this process in 2023?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would say maybe this is past a little bit, but I just think you want to try to get as much done as you can during the summer, because the first couple of weeks of high school, as your experience right now, like they're really exciting for most students, but they can be incredibly hectic, more hectic than they anticipated. And I think when we go visit high schools, what we hear often, not often, but when students are willing to admit it, some students say, I wish I got more done over the summer because I can't really like fully enjoy, or I'm a little more overwhelmed than I should be because I'm still trying to handle like the paperwork process of the college admissions application process. And I should have got more done in the summertime. And that stinks because you deserve to be as present in your
Senior
like
year right now.
especially with this group of students that maybe made some sacrifices earlier on in high school. That kind of stinks. And I think just I would say keep a deep breath as the year goes on. I think sometimes early decision students, it's like it's a lot of emotion at first, a lot of joy, and it's euphoric at the beginning when you first find out you're in and you're done. But then that can fade a little bit over the course of the school year, especially when their friends who apply regular decisions start getting good news and get to go to all these accepted student programs and actually make a choice. And I would just say to those students, like, trust the process that got you to apply to that school early decision. Like you're in a good place. And with the flip side, I think it can get a little stressful for regular decision students as they start to see some of their friends lock up their choice through early decision. And I would just say to those students, be patient. Like being able to go to accepted student programs should be an incredible reward for all the work you put in and for waiting.
I agree. Don't wait to the last minute.
Yeah.
Trust the process. Everything works out in the end. We'll all be good. Yeah, just breathe.
But
Breathe.
it's easier. It's easier for us to say, but
Yes,
absolutely,
for
that's how it
sure.
will work out.
For sure. This has been so incredibly helpful. Thank you so much for spending all this time with us and speaking to me and, in turn, our students and families to learn a little bit more about Boston College. Truly, truly, this has been tremendous. So thank you. And I hope we can connect again soon.
Yeah. Thanks again for the opportunity. You see my name's on there. If any of your families want to reach out, if you just put my name into the BC search engine on the main page, my contact information.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that.
Sure. Thank you.